Kiowa Fallen versus Brawlers in the first round of the qualifiers. Kiowa Fallen is actually the lowest seed in the tournament, but I think that's a bit misleading because they have insane team chemistry. The Taiwanese team has been performing fairly well in all tournaments. They have very good team chemistry. On the other side, Barles and Valas for the Brawlers, this is the first time they actually team up for a tournament as far as I know. So this is gonna be interesting. Obviously, Barles with his Hidden Cup performance, I think, especially the qualifiers, he won the heart of a lot of people. Valas will be his teammate for this one. And on the other side, Sora Kuma and Cloud are the main players of Kiowa Fallen, but there's a chance we'll see Demon Sheep as well, who is the third member of this Taiwanese squad. So let's take a look at the maps. Coast to Mountain is the ban for the Brawlers, and the ban for our Taiwanese team is Regicide Fortress. So we'll have Team Acropolis and Eruption for Barles and Valas, Team Islands and Rock Slide for Sora Kuma and Cloud. Global bans will be Khmer and Britons, and it looks like the Brawlers will be rocking with Tatars, Vikings, Lithuanians, Chinese, Franks as their pool 1. Gods, Incas, Aztecs, surprisingly, but not that surprisingly, we'll talk about that in a second. Koreans and Burgundians will be their pool 2 civs. Now, Aztecs might seem like, hey, how do you even give that to the opponent? It's a strong civ. But reality is that Aztecs are actually pretty bad in 2v2s. They're an archer civ mainly, and they don't have thumb ring. So they're actually pretty underwhelming in 2v2. Other side, Turks. We have seen that Turks can be used really well, so they're actually a very underrated pool 2 civilization. Sicilians, well, I'm not gonna say I'm surprised. Malay, Burmese, and the Byzantines will be the pool 2 civilizations. It's very interesting that yesterday I think we have seen quite a lot of pool 1 picks for Byzantines. So what I love about this format is that oftentimes many people or many teams interpret the type of bad civilization. How should I put this? Basically, bad civilization is a relative term, so to say, for these players. So you're trying to give bad civs to the opponent, but every civ is useful for something, especially with a map pool that gives a huge variety of maps. There is water maps, there is hybrid maps, there's land-based maps, there is maps with insane elevation. And so with that, the first set of the day, Barles versus Valas, we will actually jump into game number 1 in a matter of moments. So with that, let's see what the hero of Hidden Cup 4 can do with the very underrated Finnish player, often forgotten Finnish player, against the Taiwanese team. Brawlers will be playing on the right side in cold colors. Barles will be playing Incas in blue. That is an interesting start for him, but Incas are a super versatile archer civilization. So the thing is that Incas might not seem like a great civ, but it's actually a fairly decent one as an archer civ. Better than Aztecs, in fact, in 2v2s. On the other side, we're gonna have a Franks for Valas in green, and we have very early Eagle coming in here, potentially for some laving. We have Turks for Cloud. This is Cloud's account now. He used to be running by the name Cloud, and that's his legacy name for years, but now this is his new account. I'm not sure why he changed names, but he has been running with this name for quite a while. On the other side, we'll have Sora Kuma playing as Ethiopians. So this is the scenario where the Turks probably want to be aggressive, because this is going to be a light cap focused gameplay from them, pretty much capitalizing on the extra pierce armor of Turkish light cavalry. Wouldn't be surprised to see an extended and aggressive feudal age from these guys, and potentially double stable, even light cap push in early castle age. We'll see what they can do against knights though, because that's the biggest problem. They can go camels, but I would think that knight and crossbow is just going to beat camel crossbow, or potentially even light calf crossbow with Turks. We have an eagle here that's going to deny the wood line. That is, well, they're just passing. There was a moment for Barles to potentially delay that wood line quite a bit with one villager out there. The villager could have run back to the TC, it's not really a big deal, as he lames 2 goats from his opponent, lands a hit on Cloud's scout, and let's see if he actually goes for a boar. It looks like Cloud wants to bring that boar in before that actually happens. You see that his boar is also running out anyways. He's trying to block the villager as much as possible, so Barles is playing super aggro over here, but this actually is a very good distraction, because while he was doing that, he was able to take away 2 goats. And at the end of the day, he loses a bit of an HP on his eagle, but he can always heal that up inside the TC, and he can just run back home with the 2 sheep that he has lamed. That being said, he didn't find 2 of his own sheep, so he's gonna be at a big 0 with that in the end, and now he's actually running to disrupt the deer push, so he's actually playing super aggressive over here. Now, one thing to consider is that I think that the individual skill, especially 1v1 skill, is heavily on the side of Barles+Valas. Barles is probably the best player right now amongst all. However, you also have to consider that Sora Kuma and Cloud has insane team chemistry. They've been playing together for years now. In fact, the Taiwanese community has very frequent games together. They did play in 2-1, so I think the Taiwanese team was actually fairly decent at that time. With that, we're going to have only 2 on wood here for Sora Kuma. This is an interesting build here. This is a very interesting build. You got Sora Kuma with 1 villager on gold, 2 on wood. What is this build up to? Remember, with Ethiopians, you're actually getting a reasonable amount of resources in when reaching feudal age, and this seems like he actually wants to, don't tell me he wants to go up at 19 pop. Yeah, he gotta go for 19. He wanted to do an 18. He wanted to do an 18 pop feudal for what could have been very fast archers. With that being said, we are gonna have Barles and losing his scout potentially. He can try run away, but at the end of the day, that's 2 scouts jumping on him. There is his teammate Valas bringing in the reinforcement scouts. You can still try to run back here to your TC, but it looks like Barles will end up losing his scout. Both scouts of the opponent lost some HP, and indeed this ends up being a 19 pop feudal, which is still admirable with Ethiopians. This is definitely a unique build for Sora Kuma, as he is dropping a barracks for what will probably be 1 range archers really fast over here. Other side, we do have Barles coming in with what is a Minotaur's build. His gold mine actually looks awful, so it's on the hill and very much on the front. Not really any good gold mines at the back though. So in general, Barles' map looks extremely awful. For Valas, this actually is much more acceptable. The gold mine is safe, relatively easy to hold the front. The left side is quite open though. For Sora Kuma, this is also a fairly open map in terms of primary gold. The secondary gold is nice though. And lastly, we have a gold mine over here that's sort of borderline for Cloud. Not amazing. Neither of these players have very well defendable bases, to be honest. So that's a very fast feudal and a double range archer build. Now the main question with this build, as Sora Kuma actually traps that scout over there, so Valas loses a bit of an HP. So I would like to point out that at the end of the day, Barles lamed 2 sheep but didn't find his own, so it's going to be a big 0 for him. His opponent lost 2 sheep at the end. So it's double range archers, but the question always is sustainability. Can you actually keep producing double range archers? I am not so sure with only 20 villagers, only 2 on gold right now. If you can, this is a very good build from Sora Kuma, especially considering he's up against Franks, so a spear and archer opening could be pretty devastating against the opponent, who is still pretty much open. Nice small walls here for Valas. He's actually going to expand the walls over there. And Man-at-Arms opening actually is quite reasonable against the Scout Civ, so we have Scout versus Archer Civ over here for both players. Fast fletching coming in for Sora Kuma as well. Men-at-Arms will actually find the wood line, but the walls are already up, so they won't be able to do much. They're actually attacking this lumber camp down hills, which is an extremely important factor in this one. So scouts are coming out now for Valas. He is currently on 2, making a 3rd one just now. Bit of messiness behind his TC over here. just dropping farms over here. Luckily, he's got the free horse color of Franks, so that helps a tiny bit, but he doesn't really have an answer to Spearman, and he's not fully walled. If he was fully walled, this wouldn't be that threatening, because the archers can get through walls, but he is not fully walled. On the other side, he was actually able to force off the villagers from Sora Kuma, from the mill, and the thing is that if Sora Kuma doesn't repair that mill, he's going to lose that. And that actually hurts quite badly, because that's important for our farm upgrades, it's important for the berries in general, and this will force Cloud to actually fight this. Over here, there is no spearman to support from Barles, so he decided to just keep the man-at-arms, trade it off against the scouts, and that's still a fairly acceptable situation for him. It's in fact a very good situation, because remember that these scouts have +1 defense in terms of pierce armor, which is extremely important here, because you're up against the archer civ. So it looks like Valas will actually be walled before these archers could break in. The scouts took a fight over here, but the archers and spears are still around. So you got +1 defense for the scouts of Cloud in terms of pierce armor only, of course, because he's Turks. And on the other side, we have fletching and archers for Sora Kuma. And I'm actually very, very surprised how consistent he's producing archers here. This is a very nice and clean build from Sora Kuma. Interesting walls over here. I'm not really a fan of those. But with that, it looks like we're gonna have a couple of archers from Barles dispatched. Because he went for men-at-arms, his archer play is delayed. So you see that he's right now on 4 archers as opposed to 12. And that fast archer play could start punishing our green player over here. Because that's quite a lot of archers to fight against. And those are also Ethiopian archers, so the quality of those archers are also much, much better than the Inca archers. Fletching just now coming in for Barles. Problem is the numbers. You got 2 archers and a spearman here, and there will be scouts converging as well that do have the extra pierce armor. As I said, I think the Taiwanese team has to be very aggressive over here with their Feudal Age build, because that's where they really get their advantage from the extra pierce armor scouts. And once we get to Castle Age, the Knights will still be better than the Light Calf, potentially, of Turks. So you probably want to be very aggressive here in Feudal Age. The Scouts will run past the group of units of Barles over here. And now, Scouts will actually try getting in there, and this helps quite a bit. Because you need melee units to take down walls easily. So you see that now that the Scouts are here, it's much easier to get through the walls. Nice re-walls behind by Valas. So, with that, we are gonna have the walls slowly going down. I think there might be a hole in between these 2 houses, it's hard to tell. But it really could be the case. We're gonna have the scouts potentially trying to run in now. We'll soon find out if there is a hole or not. There will be some more archers coming in. Valas is also getting a couple of scouts in here. He's got already 6 scouts. So he probably wants to lead one of these houses and come in from this side. Or you can just combine your forces with your teammate over here and take one big engagement. There's not really a lot of spearmen on the field for Sora Kuma. However, these scouts don't really have any upgrades on them, so these archers will still pack up decent punch. Numbers wise, it's actually is pretty close, and now it's +1 defense actually coming in for Sora Kuma, which will mean that he's gonna have 4 pierce armor on those scouts, and also the melee armor is gonna be better than the ones for Balas. 2 more spearmen still on the field. They could actually help taking out those scouts, because it looks like Barles is actually falling back with his archers for now, so they're definitely on the defensive. Nice walls so far behind to make sure that there is no chance for the Taiwanese team to actually get through the walls. Bloodlines coming in. If Bloodlines comes in, suddenly those scouts will be way better than the ones of Franks. It's always an interesting debate. The Franks starting with 54 HP on their scouts in Feudal Age. Is that 9 extra HP compared to the opponent's scout, or is that actually 11 less? Because reality is that in early Feudal Age, it's 9 extra HP, but once you get into late Feudal Age, it suddenly becomes 11 HP less. So timing is essential, obviously. With the Franks, we shouldn't forget, though, that both players from Barles' team is now going into Castle Age. Interesting is the fact that Sora Kuma and Cloud actually tried bashing their way through these walls when this was open the whole time, and they could have pushed this gold mine from the other side. It looks like they didn't have the scouting. They see the gold mine. This is just sloppy then. They could have just sent the archers all the way around that hit the gold mine. Now it's a defensive tower, but this could have happened a long time ago. 26 archers on the field, but those won't be crossbows anytime soon. There is no double bit axe, there is no horse collar for Sora Kuma either, so it is a very tight build for Sora Kuma, as we're gonna have the second stable coming in right now. Valas will be forced off from all accessible wood, which is going to be troublesome because this means he's staying on 1 TC for a while, instead of being able to afford 3 TCs. Also went for a defensive tower, and he doesn't have access to stone, so this is gonna be 1 TC build from Valas. We might even see a third stable if that's the case. Cloud clicks up, and soon we will see Sora Kuma clicking up as well with a bit of market usage. Still, the lack of eco upgrades hurts badly, and he can't afford to lose this army. It's too much value over there, 24 archers. Now his opponent also has 17 archers on the field, and those will be crossbows pretty soon, so if you're Sora Kuma, you want to make sure that you don't lose that army of archers that is now heading towards the base of Barles. So once you get to Castle Age, these will be upgraded to Light Cav automatically. And it looks like Valas will actually do a counterattack with the scouts. These walls aren't finished yet, so the scouts could actually find a really decent value for themselves. The scouts of Cloud now, trying to get some picks on some straggler archers over here. And in the meanwhile, you see that the archers right now are just being hidden here, just to make sure that there is no chance for the opponent to kill them. And there is that open hole. I did mention that I didn't really like the walling of Sora Kuma, and that's a disaster. His eco is already fairly weak. He just now got wheelbarrow and horse collar, or he did get wheelbarrow before, but double with axe horse collar came in quite late for him. These scouts do have a +2 defense, so they're actually pretty sturdy, and the Ethiopian player being off from gold is already a very, very big disaster. Cleaning this one up is gonna be a nightmare. Well, these are just scouts right now, so you could just say it's a scout's mare and not a nightmare. But soon knights will be coming in as well. That's the other big problem for Sora Kuma, that there is already 6 knights on the field, and they could be heading right towards the base of Sora Kuma over here. Eventually this is gonna get cleaned up, and he's going to end up losing apparently 0 villagers. This is amazing. Look at this. 0 villagers lost by Sora Kuma. That was an absolutely astounding defense. A lot of idle time, but given the circumstances, losing 0 villagers was absolutely amazing. Now, that being said, now the gold mine of our red player is exposed. So we are gonna have the knights coming in now for our red player, but you see that he's queuing up Light Cav. This is the problem that I was talking about. Light Cav is nice against the archers, but it's not nice against the knights of the opponent. You got the ballistics coming in right now, but here is the crossbows for Sora Kuma breaking through the walls, and that's not something that Barles expected. He was looking for that army, but he couldn't find it. So it looks like he's gonna have some idle time. Not the end of the world, because he's not actually losing villagers, and behind this one, Barles actually is denying the gold mine of the opponent, and he's also denying this wood line. So the yellow army here is causing disruption, but it's not as big of a disruption as this is. So, with that being said, we're gonna have the knights just sticking around here will actually deny the gold mine, and one thing is sure, I don't really like the Turkish pick at the end of the day. Because the light cav is nice, but when you're up against knights, you're gonna be in trouble, especially in Imperial. The thing is that right now the Taiwanese team is on a timer. If they can't actually get value for their Castle Age army, in Imperial they will have no chance against Paladin. Obviously you could say it's heavy camel, but you won't have chance against Cavalier or Paladin and the Inca Arbs. So these crossbows still looking for something to kill. They do have ballistics though, so you gotta be careful. Valas' team has a 20 villagers lead, but that soon could shrink. So 1 villager, 2 villagers down over here on the wood line. On the other side, this is apparently a bit of a miss micro from Barles. Runs into the TC fire with 3 or 4 crossbows. And also, now the crossbow reinforcements coming from Sora Kuma alongside a couple of knights, and they clean up some of the knights from Barles and Valas over here. Crossbows taking good engagement over here. There's a mangonel coming out. Light Cav will actually jump on that Mango, and remember, these have insane pierce armor, so they will withstand the arrow fire, and that's a very, very good fight for Cloud over there. Simultaneously, they engaged on the left side, and that should be enough to clean this one up. Taiwan is coming back to this one, because even though they're behind by 10 Voyagers now, they are the ones applying the pressure, and it's 41 army against merely 27. Most of the crossbows from Barles are dead. They do have +1 armor only. They're up against +1 armor Ethiopian crossbows. Over there, new knights are coming in here for Valas to clean this army up, but now it is Barles who is off from gold. 3 TCs will be there for Valas. We already have 3 for Barles. We're gonna have our red player apparently having a bit of production bottleneck with Voyagers. He had to make a defensive tower, so he can't make an additional TC right now unless he buys stone. And we also have a 1 TC build here from our yellow player who runs out of gold. So his gold mine right now is dangerously exposed. Here come the knights. Knights have +2 defense, and this should be still a cleanup. In fact, a very, very decisive cleanup over here. So with that, it is going to be now once again a massive advantage for Valas' team, especially if he starts sending in knights to this position. A monastery coming in here for Sora Kuma is definitely interesting. It's probably not for conversions, it's more like a relic collection type of a thing. These crossbows are still camping some of the farms, so Sora Kuma and Cloud is restricted to a quite low Voyager count because of the 1 TC play, and especially because our red player's food eco is also getting denied. Now this is a cleanup with the Knights and the Light Cav, or at least it's gonna clean up most of it. But the problem that they're facing now is that they're up against quite a lot of Knights, 12 Knights on the field. And with such an exposed gold mine, that could end up in a disaster. We have 4 TCs coming in here for Valas now. Other side, we'll have 3 for Barles, so they steadily increase their eco lead, and it's now 4 ranges. Imperial Age coming in here for Sora Kuma for a 1 TC faster Imperial. This used to be done with Mayans before Obsidian Arrows were nerfed, because you could just go run into the opponent's base with Obsidian Arrow Arbs and pick off all the buildings, but without siege, this Imperial won't mean much, especially if you lose your Voyagers on your wood line. It looks like Sora Kuma was looking elsewhere, because he's completely surprised by the fact that there's a massive overchop on his wood line, and now he's gonna start losing massive amounts of Voyagers, so he's down to 50 himself. They combined for 96 Voyagers against 145, and now there is Mangonels coming forward with crossbow support as well. I like these outposts from Barles, so they will be able to track the opponent's army very, very nicely. There will be some reinforcements coming in here from Sora Kuma and Cloud, but still, I mean, at this point, the problem that Sora Kuma's team is facing is that they have a 60 Voyager deficit, and that's way too much to overcome, especially, as I said, if you hit this gold mine over here, that's jackpot. I wonder if Barles and Valas know about that, and they do. They should actually just send 1 knight over there and see if there is anyone mining it, because at this stage, you could very well be mining it, and if you find these Voyagers, it's one thing that you force Sora Kuma off from gold. It's a different thing that you pick off potentially 5, 6, 7 Voyagers. Indeed, now they find the gold mine, and immediately send the knights over there. Crossbows will be coming into A tier as well. If all the knights were sent there immediately, this would have been a lot more Voyagers killed. Still, I feel like Sora Kuma is gonna drop down to 35 Voyagers, which is not necessarily ideal in a 34-minute game. The left side is still very, very peaceful, but it's a 1 TC play from both of our warm color players. And even though they will clean this one up, I feel like at the end they will just get outboomed really heavily. Barles will click up to Imperial soon as well. And Sora Kuma is up to Imp, but he's at 35 Voyagers right now. He still has 27 Arbalests, or soon to be Arbalests, as he's prioritizing the defense upgrade before Bracer, interestingly. But still, I don't see this one being enough to potentially be able to fight a flood of knights, because it's gonna be numbers that Valas can win this one with. So there's gonna be +2 defense indeed for those Ethiopian crossbows. Now Arbs, but he's missing Bracer. I'm not sure if this is intentional. He's got chemistry, so he could still try to play this one with Arbalest Bombard Cannon. They gotta be careful. It's a now or never for Sora Kuma's team. If he brings in a couple of Bombard Cannons and actually starts, like, destroying Valas, then there is still a chance, but this push is gotta count. If he loses this blob of Arbs, there is no chance of Arbalests being replenished over here. Still, Arbs with chemistry will melt knights from Castle Age, and I wonder if he knows he didn't make Bracer. He can't really afford it, but it's somewhat surprising we are seeing extra armor instead of a Bracer. So theoretically in an archer versus archer fight it doesn't really matter, because in fact it might be worth it for Sora Kuma to go for defense here because he wants to keep that army alive. Goes for Tumbling though. Like, he seems like he just forgot Bracer, that's it. With that being said, knights are being sent back to the gold mine over here. A lion is also joining the party, and Sora Kuma has no defense here, which means that he's gonna keep losing villagers down to 32, and it appears that he's gonna try to play this one without villagers, and the problem is that it doesn't have siege. So without siege you can't take down TCs whatsoever with archers, or well, you can, but it's a slow process and it buys a lot of time for Barles to go into Imperial and bring in his own Arbalest. He's just waiting with this blob of arbs in a moment, and 29 villagers for Sora Kuma right now, and he keeps losing those. He's not gonna be able to replenish this army. It's 35 arbs against Barles. Only has 22 over here, but if he gets Bracer as well, as he's getting Bracer, he's gonna have +2 defense, Arb and Bracer, so theoretically his Arbs will still be better than the opponent's Arbs, even though these are Tumbling Arbs firing with Ethiopian speed. Still, I feel like it's the problem of replenishing them. Their numbers will slowly be grinded down, and now they want to sandwich that army in between two groups of knights. At this point, Barles+Valas know exactly that this is gonna be an inefficient fight, but they also know that they are up ahead by a massive margin in terms of villager count, and they just need to grind down those Arbalest numbers to a point where Sora Kuma isn't really capable of using that. We didn't actually see on the other side though knights from the, Cloud running into the eco of Barles, and Barles doesn't really have a great defense here either. He's down to 78 villagers. Still, it's 100 villagers difference. The Arbalests get cleaned up, so right now there's a 40 population for Sora Kuma at 40 minutes of the game, unless there is gonna be a massive, enormous raid here from Cloud. This seems impossible for Sora Kuma and his teammate. We already have 4 archer ranges coming in here from Barles. He's gonna trickle a couple of orbs to the back of the wood lines of the opponent, and slowly those knights actually get cleaned up by the TC, and at the end you still have 76 villagers for Barles, which is more than either of the opponents. So it's now gonna be a castle drop apparently by Valas with the support of the Arbalests. There is still a couple of them on the field for Sora Kuma, but it's only 14. There's a couple of knights joining the party as well. And here comes the castle drop on the gold mine. Needless to say, if that castle goes up, this game is very much over. It is probably over already, but if that goes up, it's gonna be omega over, because there is gonna be no gold access for Sora Kuma. He's at 36 villagers. I mean, Cloud is still alright, but he's gonna be up against a Frankish player, 124 villagers and Imperial. And with that, Valas' team takes game number 1. There were some scary moments for them, and it wasn't really clean from either side. But at the end, the fact that they were able to defend in feudal well, they had some slightly better receipts for Castle Age play. So I like that Sora Kuma and Cloud actually wanted to go super aggressive in feudal. But at the end of the day, that didn't do enough damage. And in retrospective, it would have been important, I believe, if Sora Kuma and Cloud would have pushed that gold mine immediately, because they were messing around with the wood lines and trying to get through these walls too much, instead of just walking around and hitting that gold mine, potentially delaying Valas' Castle Age time or so. With that, we'll go back to the lobby over here. And we're gonna have Franks and Incas crossed out from Barles+Valas. Other side, they lose Ethiopians and Turks. You have to add that you don't have good cavalry civs for Sora Kuma and Cloud in the second pool. So maybe Sicilians might be the most legitimate cavalry civ of all over there. This is one of the reasons why I feel like it is actually better to pick the cavalry civs in your pool 1, because it is much easier to find a reasonable archer civ in your pool 2 than it is to find a reasonable cavalry civ. They could have gone Huns on Arabia, but I guess they wanted Ethiopians, so Huns and Byzantines could have been a reasonable solution. for Arabia. And with that, we are going to jump out and get into game number 2. That's gonna be on the home map of Barles of Sora Kuma and Cloud. We're going to Team Islands or Rock Slide, and we're apparently going for Team Islands. So welcome to game number 1 over here. And indeed, to answer that question, you have to pick one civ from each pool. That's the entire concept. Because if you didn't have to, you would always just pick your good civs and only play the bad civs if it goes to game number 4, game number 5. That's the concept of picking one civ from the so-called good civs and one from the bad civs. Because that way, you kind of have to... You're sort of forced to use your bad civ in one way. The entire concept is that we want to see players using these lesser used civilizations in tournaments in a way that you might not think. So we don't just want them to use the regular civilizations and play standard with them. We want to see how they can adapt to somewhat unwanted civilizations being given to them. With that, we're actually on Team Islands. We will have a Barles in blue on the left side as Koreans and Valas for green Vikings. That's a fairly nice combination of civilizations. The Koreans don't have demos, which is problematic. But other than that, this is a fairly reasonable matchup. Malay for Sora Kuma in yellow is completely legitimate, and Italians for Demon Sheep in red. So this is actually a fairly balanced matchup in terms of civilizations. I might like Malay and Italians a little bit better, but both of these are completely legitimate civilizations for both teams. So at the end of the day, what you have to consider is that... I think I just capture H freezing on us. Okay, back we are. We got a little bit of a freeze over here. So, deer push coming in here for Barles. That's pretty standard for islands nowadays. There is not really much that you can do with your scout, so you're just gonna push in the deer for yourself. So landings are still a possibility, I would say. However, it is somewhat less likely with these civilizations available. I think if you land, you gotta land with your Koreans. And on the other side, probably the Malay has to be the one landing, because I don't think that you want to waste your Italians on landing over here. And indeed, every player is pushing in the deer. Interesting to point out is the fact that they are not actually using their scouts to lure in boars. You can, but especially on Team Islands, it's a little bit risky, because if you lose HP on your scout and your opponent lands, then this is going to be very, very problematic for you to defend against. With that, we have a backdog play here for Sora Kuma, and that, to me, tells that this could be a landing attempt. It could just be a safe play for water and fishing eco, but backdog nowadays is either a fast castle or potentially a landing, or maybe even both. So, with that, we're actually gonna have the first boar coming in here for Sora Kuma. This could definitely be fast castle from Malay, which can be super, super effective because of the faster up of Malay. Front dog coming in here for Demon Sheep. We have a back dog for Valas with Vikings. That seems like a Vikings fast castle to me. Maybe straight to longboats, but usually it's safer to open with war galleys, because then you actually have some fleet on the field immediately instead of waiting for them in... and that's a house forgotten. Barles forgot the house. That happens to many, many of us over here. So that's going to delay that fishing ship here a tiny bit. Interesting is the fact that he didn't actually make that house with this Voyager. Usually what you do is send this Voyager out, drop the house over here, and then mail the dock. That's not something that we have seen here from Barles. That boar is also very far away from him, so he's got to be careful not to lose a Voyager, luring that in. Alright, so with that, we're gonna have Barles coming in here with his second boar as well. Goes for Loom. Here on this map, I think you gotta go for Loom because of potentially added precaution. You don't really want to risk your Voyagers to a potential landing. And considering that there is two scouts grouping up over here and a transport ship from our Malay player, indeed this is going to be a landing over here. But this might just be a fake landing. You see there is no Voyagers coming. This might very well be a fake landing. For whatever reason, there's a fishing ship here as well. I think this was just a wrong waypoint. This is actually a wrong waypoint from Sora Kuma. He set the waypoint here, but accidentally made the fishing ship before the transport, so the fishing ship went all the way around. That's very, very inefficient. But it looks like there is going to be no Voyagers being pulled whatsoever. We have walls coming in from Barles+Valas, so they're expecting a landing over here. On the other side, we do have Valas playing with what is apparently just a galley play, because they do not intend to land. There is no transport from either side. And it looks like what's gonna happen is that Barles will just be playing landing defense. We have seen this many, many times in 2v2 World Cup. One of the players is doing a landing defense, and it ends up being a landing with Voyagers for Sora Kuma. So it's not a fake landing. It's actually going to be an aggressive landing over here. But as I said, Barles+Valas are expecting this one. There's already barracks coming in. And behind this one, Valas isn't really walling himself. He will just go for backdock galleys over here. With that, there is the Voyagers, and let's see when Barles is going to spot this. Barles sees the scouts, he knows exactly there is a landing coming in. He's making a stable already. Scouts will try to come in and delay that stable, and they will be successful at that. Those two scouts can pick off two Voyagers. Those are fuel-age scouts. Barles is trying to fight them as much as possible. But there is one Voyager going down, and the other one, I believe, is going to survive thanks to that Spearman arriving at the final second. There is the stable coming in for our yellow player, but at this point you can pull your Spearman, and the appropriate response here from Barles would be to just make 2 or 3 Spearmen, and then bring in the Voyagers and wall this in, because you gotta wall this off very, very early on. And oh, the transport was misclicked. He misclicked the transport and almost lost the Voyagers because of those. Still, the Voyagers are alive, but most of them are low HP. There is one scout inside, but you already start walling this one off. This is already walled off, so this transport won't really be doing much around here. And we also have walls from Valas over here. Demon Sheep, who also stepped in for his team. I'm just noticing that's why the scoreboard got messed up, because the Taiwanese team has 3 players, Sora Kuma, Cloud, and Demon Sheep, and I'm just noticing that it's not Cloud playing in this game, but Demon Sheep. So that's why the scoreboard got messed up, and we're gonna have galley play over here from Valas from a back dock, which means that these fire galleys won't do much, but one thing they're actually successful doing is burning through walls, and if they burn through walls, they can open it up for scouts potentially to run in. And now Valas is probably going to lose maybe one Voyager. That's going to be close. The scout will actually try attacking down hills, and indeed there goes the first Voyager of Valas. The stable has now been walled in. It's really cute that you actually have a gate here, but even more so interesting is that you don't wall it in completely, because if you wall it in completely, like, the thing is that here, if you make a scout, it's going to spawn over here, and there is a spearman stacked in there. With that, there is a galley coming from Sora Kuma, and that galley is going to start harassing the fishing eco of Barles. The gates are up, but it's another scout that's gonna pick another Voyager off, I believe, here from Valas. So, at this very moment, if you take a look at the Voyager KDs, Valas lost 2 Voyagers. Barles actually killed 3, because he sent the fire galley to the fishing eco of Sora Kuma, and only lost 1. Sora Kuma killed 3, and lost 3 as well. For now, however, there's gonna be galleys coming in from Valas, and that's gonna be tough to answer with Demon Sheep's fire galleys. Over here, it looks like Sora Kuma will lay 1 sheep over here, and now this galley is gonna get intercepted, which means that Barles is able to keep his fishing eco. That's extremely important at this stage of the game, making sure that it is still alive and well. So, with that, Demon Sheep is coming in for a blacksmith, and he's getting close to clicking up to Castle Age. A faster Castle Age could definitely mean a massive advantage for Demon Sheep on the water, and with that market coming up, I believe he will just sell stone to go up. It would be important, because if he gets to fire ship, then he can actually overrun those galleys really easily. Looking at resources, we do have Valas with very, very little food. Some of his food eco is getting disrupted. For example, he's not really able to send a lot of villagers to berries because of the scouts lurking around. He lost a sheep or so. His fishing eco was under pressure as well from fire galleys. So, because of that, he's actually gonna be quite late going into Castle Age compared to a red player who is about to click up, I believe. So, with this, the landing is officially over, and now we just have a pure water fights coming in. The fire galleys just burning down the fishing ships over here. And right now, Valas is trying to group his galleys. He's at 14 galleys, by the way, so that's a pretty admirable number. The problem is that they're all spread out, and soon they will be up against fire ships, and fire ships will just eat galleys relatively easily. So, a couple of galleys here at the back of Demon Sheep and Sora Kuma's base. They're just looking for fishing ships to kill, making sure that their opponents don't have a great fishing eco. There will be a couple of fire galleys coming in here that is probably going to endanger Barles' fishing eco. It is extremely important for Barles to keep that alive, and there is a counter landing coming in here from Barles. He landed one villager and landed a couple of scouts as well. We'll pick off a villager over here from Sora Kuma, I believe, and 2 scouts are probably heading towards the base of Demon Sheep, who already was forced to wall himself off. Still, this villager could cause quite a lot of disruption, especially with Castle Age coming in here for Barles. The fishing eco is still alive as he's getting a couple of fire galleys in here, and indeed, keep in mind that Barles is Koreans, so if he sneaks the tower up here, it's gonna turn into a guard tower very soon. The main problem that our cold color team is facing is that right now Valas is very, very far away from Castle Age because his food eco got disrupted pretty heavily, so he's only 3 fishing ships as opposed to... Actually, he has 5. In that case, that's alright. In that case, it probably was... some sheep being stolen, being late to berries, whatsoever. So the disruption that was caused by the scouts over here. Speaking of disruption caused by scouts, there is one villager going down over here. It seems like there was an overchop over there, that's where they ran in. And, or is that over here? No, it had to be over here because there was a lot of villagers rushing up houses over there. They won't cause an awful lot of chaos, but they will pick off 1 or 2 villagers here. And that's already a quite decent value. Fast careening and War Galley coming in here for Demon Sheep loses a villager that shouldn't have been lost, but apparently the villager stopped fighting, and that's minus 2 villagers over there. But now it's gonna be fire ships, and those fire ships will start eating the galleys, especially once careening comes in. That's not a lot of fire ships though, and they're up against a quite sizable amount of galleys, so that's the advantage that Valas still has over there. If that was 5 more fire ships, this would be an easy stomp. Now with careening, they are really resistant to arrow fire, but still, that's quite a lot of galleys to fight against. We'll have a forward archer range coming in here for Barles. With that sneaky villager, the scouts will be taken down, and it's not gonna be able to find another villager kill. It's going to run away, but it's only 3 HP, so unless there is a one-hit villager to kill, it's gonna be impossible. And guess what? The elephants are coming in, and the walls are sturdy enough to make sure that scouts don't break out. But that doesn't apply to elephants. And the surprise elephant raid, this is not something that Barles was prepared for. He's gonna have to make a monastery if he finds this. He now knows. But Malay elephants are super cheap, and they take down buildings really fast as well. So you gotta be really careful with this one. He's going for War Galley right now, trying to get a couple of archers, but the defense here for Taiwan, they already have knights, could actually go for a siege workshop, and that means that this landing isn't going to do much, to be honest. Fast castle drop over here from Barles. It actually is meant to control this choke point here, and it also helps protecting the gold mine. Monastery is up for a couple of monks to defend, and you could go for a couple of war galleys as well. War galley almost in for Valas, but he's losing quite a lot of his galleys over here. There's a couple of demo rafts to slow this process down, and now that he's gonna have war galley in, it's gonna be once again an advantage on his side. A lot of his war galleys are very weak. You see the overall condition being around 50% only. I don't think this landing will do anything, to be honest, and it will just get cleaned up. We'll have 3 TCs for Sora Kuma, 2 TCs for Demon Sheep, and they have a landing as well. The elephants are still running around chilling. They didn't actually want to engage the town center, but they are raiding the wood line. Look at the elephant raid coming in here. There will be a monk to get the conversion, so you probably just delete that elephant at this point. or just let it die, that also works. Big fight over here, as Valas' fleet is actually gonna get sandwiched in between fire ships, and oh my goodness, that's a disaster. That's an absolute disaster. With all those war galleys going down, he's down to 16 war galleys against 12 fire ships, and even numbers actually favor the fire ship play over here. There will be some demos though, and demos are always quite reasonable when it comes to lowering down the opponent's fire ship numbers. So at some point, I would think that you need to switch into war galley if you're Demon Sheep, because otherwise you will just get demoed down. Still, you have to keep in mind that these fire ships are keeping this wall open, and that means that this will force a monastery to be up from Valas. That's already an achievement. Forcing a monastery this early will mean that you would lay a second or third town center. So you see that Sora Kuma is on 3 TCs, 2 TCs for Demon Sheep, whereas their opponents are just making TC number 2 over here, at least Valas. Our blue player isn't making a second town center, all because he had to make a monastery, maybe even a defensive castle. I'm not sure if he would have dropped that castle if he didn't get pushed with elephants. So elephants now, one of them getting converted, but they're so sturdy that they will just not care and go for the villagers. There is a scout over there as well that could potentially pick off some monks, and this disruption being caused by Sora Kuma's team results in massive chaos on the side of Barles+Valas. But there is the counter landing with war wagons, and that's gonna be guard towers on the wood line. Cleaning up guard towers is gonna be pretty painful, as we have a big water fight over here. The fire galleys from this side are actually a little bit slow arriving to the combat, but still, they will sandwich quite a lot of these war galleys in between them, and those war galley numbers are disturbingly low for Valas now. Here come the demos though. Here come the demos, and that could be some enormous hits over there. Oh my goodness. Oh, well, yeah. I call that good hits. I call that very good hits, and this is why at some point you're gonna have to switch to galleons, because it is much easier to turn back a lost water fight against fire ships than it is to turn it back against war galleys. Because there is no unit that can actually just mass kill war galleys, but there is actually a unit, the demo, that can mass kill fire ships. It looks like it's gonna be an early Imperial from Demon Sheep though, so fast fires are still on the table. We're gonna have the war galleys rampaging the eco of Sora Kuma though, and monastery this, monastery that. That's already 5 war wagons, so it's gonna be extremely hard to clean this one up. There is no ballistics for bars that helps a little bit for Sora Kuma in here, but look at this tower rush. This tower rush is majestic. He's just going to deny all farming eco, which is extremely important. And unlike watchtowers, guard towers aren't really taken down by mangonels. So that's a main difference. And it looks like there is a castle attempted over here, but I'm not sure how good this idea is. Like, you could technically just send the war wagons in and try to pick off as many villagers as you can. You could have killed like 5, 6, 7 villagers on that castle. Now this push is going to stall out with the castle going up. On the north, we still have fire ships coming in from Sora Kuma. 30 villagers lead right now for them, as the stable goes down slow and steady thanks to the converted elephant over here. Mass migration of villagers from the stone mine, the war wagons will find them. Luckily, as I said, for Sora Kuma there is no ballistics for those war wagons, but still, if they actually cut off the escape path, that's gonna be like minus 10 villagers for Sora Kuma. Indeed, now he's just running for the TC. And if these had ballistics, this would be even more devastating. Without ballistics, it's not going to be that deadly, but still, at the end of the day, there is going to be quite a lot of villagers going down over here from our yellow player. And we have Imperial Age for Demon Sheep. Demon Sheep is, however, sitting on a count of 0 fire ships. He probably took an engagement against these war galleys, and because of that, he lost all his numbers. That's the worst thing that you can do, because you're Imperial, but you have no fleet. Luckily for him, well, he's got multiple things to consider. He's actually making condos back at home and sending them to the opponent's island. He will also land with villagers, so he will actually start spamming condos. But more importantly, his opponents are far from Imperial, which means that he has time to mass his fast fire ships as he's taking down those war galleys over there. You see how sturdy fast fires are, even just a couple of them. If you are Valas, you probably want to slow this push down with demos, just like he's doing right now. But there's going to be a landing with condottieri, and that's going to be extremely hard to stop because monks won't work well against that. A big castle attempt over here from Sora Kuma might be a little bit too ambitious, to be honest, as the mangonel is gonna be surviving. This is a big disaster here. This is a massive disaster for Sora Kuma, trying to get this castle up here, as the mangonel will be kept being repaired, and the towers will take down the villagers. Mangonels will deny that castle. This castle isn't really going up in the foreseeable future, and Sora Kuma is still 85 villagers, but he lost like 10 or 15, so over here. Still, that doesn't change the fact that now Condottieri will be raiding the eco of Valas, and there is also going to be some fast fires coming in, a decent demo shot, but you gotta get some good demo shots in here. Sora Kuma is actually going for infantry armor, getting quite a lot of decent demo hits over here, grinding down those fast fire numbers. War Wagons now hitting Demon Sheep's eco here, and that is going to result in an awful lot of villagers being lost once again. Poor Monk is trying to chase down the War Wagons, so Villager is actually evening out, but I don't think that Barles+Valas will be able to catch up, because there is gonna be Condottieri raiding the eco of Valas, which means that Valas is not gonna get to Imperial anytime soon, and that means that he's gonna have trouble against the fast fires in long term. Bars' landing is doing the work here. These War Wagons are really just absolutely smashing our red player, but speaking of smashing players, here's a castle being dropped right in the face of Valas. So the thing is that both Demon Sheep and Sora Kuma are taking significant punishment from these War Wagons, but I feel like the push from Demon Sheep is a lot more convincing, especially now that he has completely cleaned up the navy of Valas, and this is the time where he can actually switch into galleons if he wants to, but I think he's just gonna continue with fast fires now and go for Condottieri. Monk's getting picked off over here with only one conversion, as this push is pretty much, I'm not going to say it's dead, but the TC actually went down. After that, there is not really much to kill. Karambit Warriors from Sora Kuma. Oh, that ground attack. That ground attack was majestic against the Karambit Warriors. Condottieri still inside the walls over here. Apparently quick walls failed from Valas, and now you can start making traps as well to take down TCs really fast, but it's just going to be about a flood of Condottieri into the opponent's eco. So Sora Kuma is taking a quite bad beating over here, but that also applies to Bars on the other side. So this is still very, very open. So, defensive castle coming in here for Valas. Bars is on the way to Imperial, and with that, Bars could actually afford maybe to bring in some traps from this castle over here to the front line, because if you bring that, you can actually take this castle down. You will have to take this castle down, because right now, Valas is pretty much trapped in here. If this TC goes down, all these villagers could be exposed to the Condottieri. Other side, there is still War Wagons raiding Demon Sheep's eco, so this game is super, super messy. We are gonna have Imperial Age coming in for Sora Kuma as well. Warrior is now completely under the control of Demon Sheep and Sora Kuma, so that's a nice advantage for them over here. We got some famous Viking Knights with 0 upgrades coming in trying to snipe trebuchets, but at the end of the day, I think your answer could be Berserk to this, because Berserks will actually be pretty decent against Condottieri. And on the other side, we're gonna have another castle attempted over here, and once again Sora Kuma runs into the mangonel ground attack. Bars has had some nice ground attacks here with those mangonels. The second occasion where Karambits are just getting absolutely annihilated by the mangonels. With that, it looks like the War Wagons were cleaned up in Demon Sheep's eco. He's at 66 villagers, but we shouldn't underestimate that Sora Kuma is 109 villagers. So he's got 110 villagers. His eco was under pressure, but he didn't really lose awful lot of villagers over here, as the castle does go down, and now the Condottieri will actually jump on the gold miners, and that's the problem that Valas is facing. He's going nowhere in this game. He's constantly forced to defend against an Imperial Age army, and those condos aren't really well upgraded if you take a look. They do have +2 defense, but no attack upgrades, so they're good, but not super amazing. The problem is that Valas has absolutely nothing that can stop them, as Valas is dropping to 64 Voyagers, and if this TC goes down, that's gonna be even worse. Voyagers running for their life right now on the shoreline. So now it's double castles for Sora Kuma, and he's making traps. There is gonna be traps as well from Barles, but 2 castles worth of trap production is way better than 1. Coinage coming in from Sora Kuma. He's got the eco, so he can actually afford to sling resources to his teammate as the TCs are slowly going down. A little bit careless from Demon Sheep to leave those traps open for the Knights to kill. Still, at this point, Valas is sitting on 0 town centers on the right side. He's got 2 on the left he just built, but he's at 54 Voyagers. And on the other island, we will have Sora Kuma slowly being able to take this castle down with 2 castles worth of trap production, and he's getting trap number 3 and 4 out here, so he should have no trouble cleaning this one up. And if they clean this up, I feel like they got this game. On their home map, they play this one really well, and Barles and Valas were prepared for landing. What they weren't prepared for, I believe, is a potential aggressive early Imperial with Condottiere in the castle drop, because that's what really decided the outcome of this one. So Valas had some trouble retaining his fleet, as we got Redemption and block printing coming in over here. So you want to convert those bombard cannons, because that's exactly what the Barles is bringing in. Redemption block printing monks for Sora Kuma. He's got 1 monastery only though. Actually, he's got 2 monasteries because he's researching it on 2 different ones, but still, he's gonna be able to convert those bombard cannons. This is still a tricky micro, remember that, because Malay could go for their own bombard cannon, but if the Koreans go for a unique tech, for the towers can outrange those bombard cannons. So Barles still believes in the capability of that push, and now we're gonna have a couple of berserks coming in. Another castle comes in for Demon Sheep, as he's taking away gold from Valas. That's actually extremely important. Look at this. This gold mine, these 2 gold mines, all of these will be lost for Valas. So if I'm not mistaken, Valas is off from gold, which obviously is not ideal for him. Still in Castle Age, and we're gonna have Upsong. So indeed, those towers will actually be meant to pick off the monks. If you get Bracer and Upsong, you are gonna have the chance to pick off the monks with the towers. So that's what is on the mind of Barles. Defend this castle with bombard cannons and Upsong towers versus monks and the traps. So what you have to do here is trap down the towers first, actually, because once you trap down towers, you can actually convert the bombard cannons. Here come the monks, trying to get some conversions in. Tower goes down. Left side we have Condottiere moving in. Still, this should be a massive lead for Sora Kuma's team. They are both in Imperial Age. One of their opponents isn't, and there is infantry armor coming in, so Valas knows that he needs to go for berserks to clean up the condos, but that's extremely hard to do. So you see that now the monks are just trying to scare away those bombard cannons. That is 6 traps, so they will melt that castle in 5 seconds. No worries, says Barles, and he's gonna make another one as the first trap goes down over there to the bombard cannon. Illumination coming in as well for Sora Kuma, so he's getting all the monk techs, and he's waiting for the karambits to flood out. Tries to get a conversion on the bombard cannon once again, and there is actually 1 converted, so it's gonna get immediately destroyed by the towers, no surprise about that, but it's still 1 conversion. But I think the biggest problem that the Barles and Valas is facing is this. They just can't stop the flood of Condottiere at this point, and I am fairly certain that Sora Kuma is sending quite a lot of resources now in Imperial to Demon Sheep, because in Imperial you can actually send resources to Imperial, or to the teammate, and that's extremely important, as apparently Barles still has 1,000 stone, but he's not repairing that tower. Tries to play with the bombard cannon still. And the towers now have a 12 range, so they actually have even range to those monks. Bombard cannons coming in to try and finish off the traps, but I think this is played right. This is played very, very well for Sora Kuma. He knows that he needs to take down towers first and then move in with the monks. Make sure that he doesn't lose the monks though. Now there's quite a lot of Karambit warriors coming in. They will probably just attempt to snipe bombard cannons as well, or just flood the war wagons, and they were actually focusing down that village that was hidden behind that war wagon. Bombard cannon from the right side trying to get a shot out. Karambits still losing numbers, but at this point, this raid is doing a lot more damage. Another castle goes down here from Valas. Valas is just unable to hold this one against Imperial units. He's trying to go Berserks now, tech into Champion. I guess the idea is that Valas is trying to hold this one while Barles is pushing, but reality is that Barles is not pushing. Barles actually was successful taking down the traps over here, so this slows down Sora Kuma's cleanup over here by a considerable margin, but he's not really denying resources. On the other hand, if you take a look at this, this is just a massacre. 143 villagers against 251. And if you're Sora Kuma, you could think about teching into Galleon, or you could also tech into Galleon if you're Demon Sheep, because you want to start denying shoreline resources like these, potentially these. Valas and Barles go for the GG over here. Understandable, as at the end of the day, they just lost the majority of their island here to this landing. Really, the imp landing from Demon Sheep was the one that swung the battle in their favor enough. The timings were pretty right from Demon Sheep, I have to say. His imp time was nice, his castle age time was nice, and that helped an awful lot to make sure that it's gonna be a win for them on the water. With that, we are going to get back into the lobby over here, and that means that Sora Kuma and Cloud even it out on their own home maps. So now we're going to the home maps of Barles and Valas, Eruption or Team Acropolis. Both of them are land-based maps. We could have Lithuanians most likely goes for Team Acropolis, potentially alongside Aztecs. That could be a reasonable one because of the Aztec team bonus. Eruption could be a safe for Tatars and maybe Goths or Burgundians. Could be Aztecs as well. And then I would think that Rockslide will be Chinese. It's probably gonna be Chinese Goths for Rockslide, which would mean Lithuanians, Aztecs for Team Acropolis, and Tatars, Burgundians for Eruption. Whereas on the other side, you still have Mayans, which could be a great sif for any of these maps. Potentially Acropolis for fast castling. And maybe on Eruption. That's what I'm thinking over here. Eruption could be Burmese as well. They still have Huns, and Huns could be a decent Rockslide slave, or Eruption, or even Team Acropolis. So Huns could be basically a civ that you go for anywhere. They definitely wanted to keep it for a later stage, because they could have used it on Arabia, but they didn't. And we're gonna go to Eruption, and that is gonna be an interesting civ matchup, that's for sure. We are going into Eruption. This is the first time we're actually going to see the two new civilizations being used against each other in this one. So, if Capture Age actually starts to cooperate, we will actually go for Eruption over here. We will have, once again I need to set the scores, because we got Cloud back, so Demon Sheep stepped in for the Islands game, and now Cloud is back. Cloud is gonna be playing Sicilians in red on the left, and on the south we're going to have Sora Kuma playing as yellow Mayans, Sicilians Mayans versus Tatars for Barles in blue, and Burgundians for Valas in green. So it looks like we're gonna have both of the DLC civilizations in Pool 2, and both of these will be used as cavalry civs over here. So who will prevail? Either Sicilians or Burgundians will actually have victory today. That's for sure. So the way that Eruption looks like is that you have all the gold in the middle of the map, surrounded by a massive mountain over here with crazy elevation. There's quite a lot of hunt over here that you can take if you're willing to move out there, but usually players just vote themselves up and go for fast castles. I feel like the map is vulnerable enough not to play scouts or so. You might try scouts and archers, but you gotta make sure you get through walls, otherwise you're gonna get beaten to Castle Age. And I feel like if you're beaten to Castle Age, you won't really be able to secure the middle for yourself. So being first to Castle Age and getting a couple of like early Castle Age combat units out, like knights, crossbows, can help you secure the middle, and it's going to be extremely important that you can defend the middle. Especially with Tatars, being able to hold this hill would be extremely important. The maps are generally well volable, although if you take a look at Sora Kuma's one, that's actually pretty bad. This gold mine is bad, and this gold mine is also kind of underwhelming, so to say. On the other side, we will have Cloud with an okay-ish map, but I'm not impressed about this one either. One thing to consider, though, and this would be an extremely intriguing thought. What if you do archers with Mayans in feudal, and you accompany that with dungeons? How about that? Because you could secure the middle very, very easily with dungeons. Those would be pretty hard to kill unless there's actual siege, like rams in Castle Age from the opponent. And you could very well just hold the middle with the dungeons, and then later on place your TCs over there. Especially if you get the TCs up with Sicilians, First Crusade might be an idea as well in case you're in trouble in the middle. So there's a lot to think about with Sicilians here. Burgundians will probably just be used as a standard cavalry civilization, but you see that you will use the advantages you're getting from Burgundians right away. It is going to be double Brax to start the day with. Super fast for Valas, getting that little extra boost to his eco. Early walls coming in here from Sora Kuma. And on the right side, we haven't talked about the map of Barles, which is not so great either. The wood lines aren't really favoring him. It's definitely volable, but you gotta do quite a lot of walling to secure your key resources. Walls are up as well for our red player, as we'll have some farms coming in. If you start placing farms like this, then it is like a fast castle, although you have to consider that Sicilians don't get more food on their farms. They actually get more food from the upgrades on their farms. So these farms are completely similar to standard farms of other civilizations. I'm not sure if he knows that. Hopefully he does. But that's a bit misleading because you always imagine, hey, I have a lot of food on my farms. But the reality is that you have a lot of food on your farms after you have gotten the upgrades. So, with that, we're gonna have a Voss coming in here for our red player. That could be a villager that's exposed to a scout. I feel like Valas could actually try to take it down, indeed. I like that he's getting in between the villager and the TC, trying to snipe it. Cloud is not super far away from the TC, still 4 hits to kill that villager. 2 more. And that's going to be a somewhat acceptable trade. I think in a fast castle scenario like this, losing the scout is not ideal, but picking off a villager is alright. You gotta really debate if this is worth it though. Especially considering that Cloud's eco got messed up a little bit because of that kill the piggy in the middle of nowhere. But the idea is that losing your scout means that you don't have any scouting information, which could be problematic. On the other hand, you picked off a villager from the opponent, which is quite decent value. If he lost that scout without killing the villagers, obviously it would have been a disaster. But here, I would say it's a fairly even trade. So, with that, we do have... oh, is that a hole? No, it's not a hole. Barles actually thought it's a hole, but there's a sneaky tree over here that is blocking that hole. So Sora Kuma is already walled around, mining gold with 2. He is not actually on stone, which means that it's not going to be a straight Plumed Archers play. It's most likely going to be fast castle into... well, let's see, it's 27 villagers, which would be a 26 villager timing for other civilizations. So it's most likely just going to be straight archers. And then crossbows, we're gonna have Barles up to feudal already, and he's going to get archers out immediately. Our red player is also fast castling, so it looks like we have a double fast castle over here from our Taiwanese team. And on the other side, Barles and Valas will be playing with apparently 1 fast castle from the Burgundian player, and we're gonna have an archer build here from Barles. So we're gonna have archers. I guess they could try pushing this gold mine. I have to give credit for Sora Kuma for rolling this one off nicely. So, with this walls, I don't think that Barles can actually harass this gold mine, although archers from here might be able to hit some of these villagers. But at the end of the day, this gold mine should be more or less secure, especially until Sora Kuma gets up the field age and gets a couple of his own archers out as well. So no one really wants to go for the hunt here. It seems like they will just completely ignore it, and we're gonna have a barracks coming in as well for Varlas, and with that, I believe it's a stable blacksmith up for him. Looking at the resources, it looks pretty solid. Went for quite a lot of farms. You have to go for it right now. So if you don't have any deer to push, and the players don't start with pushable deer close to their base, the deer is always on this ridge here. The thing is that if you don't push in any deer, then you're gonna have to do quite a lot of farming over here. Because of that, Mayans is actually a good civilization, because the longer lasting boar and sheep helps quite a bit. So overall, longer lasting resources with Mayans on this map is extremely helpful, I would say. There is gonna be a defensive tower for Sora Kuma, so he knows exactly that there will be archers pushing him, and indeed there is the first archer coming for Barles across the map. There is two more already out here on the front, and they do deny the berries, but Sora Kuma is able to click up to Castle Age. That's what matters. So the real question is, can you deny those berries before the opponent clicks up to castle and has enough food to click up? Because Sora Kuma was able to click up, these berries don't matter that much anymore, and he's gonna be able to get a couple of archers out, go for crossbowmen, and hold this one off for the time being. This could be a nice move from our red player if he intercepts one archer. You could use that scout to pick it off, but apparently that didn't happen. We'll have a double stable knights coming in here from Valas, most likely. We'll see if we see Coastaliers. I would love to see some Coastaliers over here. Nice move from Barles, harassing the back of this wood line. He's just spreading out his archers, trying to hit what is one of the wood lines of Sora Kuma, and another archer comes in here to hit the other one. But now there is archers for Sora Kuma as well. He can pick off a straggler archer like that. He's just finishing fletching, so he will just go for that archer. The tower actually is able to range it there now that fletching is in. Still, Sora Kuma will be playing 1 TC unless he buys himself stone, but that seems unlikely because he doesn't have a market and that would be expensive to make. So I would think it's gonna be a 1 TC build with fast ballistics, and then potentially send a couple of warriors to stone so that he can afford additional TCs. Castle Age is going to be almost in for Valas. He's already getting Boso with Burgundians, but we got a red player already in castle as well, and we're gonna have double stable knights coming in now. Here's the question to chat, because I am not sure about this one. Sicilians suffer from less bonus damage. Does that apply to heal bonus as well? Because in that case, Sicilians will suffer from way less damage from Tatars using the hill. And that's an extremely important question, because you pick Tatars here for a hill, and chat is saying yes. In that case, I like Sicilians here. If that really applies to the Tatar heal bonus as well, that's actually a nice move. Because obviously you can't completely negate it, but lowering the damage that you're receiving from Tatars, which is an insane damage output by the way, if you have the heal here with Tatars, lowering that amount of damage is actually a very, very nice thing to have. Now the knights are coming in and they could intercept the archers, and that would be -3 archers. These early archer numbers are extremely important, so you see that the boss will be down to 5, and there will be 10 crossbows coming in from Sora Kuma. He's already playing on double ranges. There will be only one range for Barles, and he is going for a defensive tower on his gold mine as well. Walled off the north with some stone walls on the south as well. He is fully walled. There is no chance for archers to break into his base. He is fully walled with stone walls and houses. Second TC coming in right now for Valas. And so we're gonna have Boso and Horse Color coming in. Crossbows and knights on the way as well for Sora Kuma and our red player. So at this point, it seems like it's gonna be a double 1 TC play from Sora Kuma and Cloud. We'll only have 2 TCs for Valas in this entire game, which is going to give him a very, very nice boost to his eco. He already has the upgrades from Castle Age, because, well, he's gotten them while going up. And he could think about Imperial Age Eco upgrades, but what he's thinking about first is the Burgundian Cavalier. Now, here's the deal. Burgundian Cavalier is nice. However, he doesn't have +2 defense. Those Burgundian Cavalier won't actually have bloodlines either. So the only thing that you get with that really compared to a knight is +2 attack, which is still nice, but it's not necessarily super amazing. So if you take a look at these knights, they don't have any upgrades either, but bloodlines is just now coming in for them. So those will actually be comparable to the Cavaliers. Nice timing over there from Valas. He's still waiting. He will actually loop around, take the hill, and then hit the opponent with the Cavalier. Now it's Cavalier. He might be waiting for +2 defense though. Crossbow just now coming in here for Barles. He's now making double range play happen. Eventually he will switch into Cav Archers, but that's gonna have to wait. And it looks like we're gonna have an offensive for the University over here from Sora Kuma. But eventually it's going to turn into a TC. He's still not mining stone, so he's not going to have a TC anytime soon. And now it looks like they will focus down on the cavalry player. Barles is pinging his current location, coming in with the crossbows to relieve his teammate. But it's going to take some time until he gets there. And until then, his teammate is actually pretty exposed to crossbows and knights over here, especially without the defense upgrade on those knights, which seems like it's still not coming in. For Valas, he's on 2 TCs. And he is doing some nice contingency wars, so these guys won't actually be able to break into his base. Still, we're gonna have the first TC coming in here for a red player, and really this is sort of a defend the middle type of a map at some point. So, as wacky as it sounds, First Crusade isn't necessarily a bad idea at some stage. We're gonna have, it appears, Scale Mail queued up and then cancelled by Sora Kuma, probably a misclick. But, as I said, First Crusade could actually prove to be a useful upgrade in the long run for our red player. Once he has like 3-4 TCs, especially in the middle, gets First Crusade and he's gonna have suddenly a huge army in the middle that helps defend. That's a nice surround over there from Valas, and you kinda have to stay on this hill, otherwise the blue crossbows will fire down hills. These Cavalier took the fight just after getting the +2 defense, so at the end is going to be a fairly acceptable trade for our warm color team, but it wasn't great. They pretty much cancelled each other's cavalry, although I think that the numbers were better for Valas. But still, at the end of the day, it is 22 army, 23 against merely 13. We're gonna have 2 more ranges coming in here for Sora Kuma, and for now, Cloud is gonna come back with his knights. Cloud's knights are horribly under-upgraded, so only +1 defense on them, and bloodlines, they need at least +2 defense, otherwise the Tar crossbows with Thumbring will just eat them. Because these guys not only have the heal bonus, they also have Thumbring, which is an extremely important difference. There is also +2 defense on them. Those crossbows, man, are scary. Look at this. Ballistics, Botkin, +2 defense, and Thumbring for Tatars, combined with the heal bonus. That's a very scary blob of crossbows, I'm just noticing. And those red knights will melt. Like, they don't have +2 defense, which is a disaster. Without +2 defense, you will just die to these crossbows so badly. You also need the +2 defense, because your opponent already has it, and he's got Cavalier too, so even though the HPs are similar, as Barles is buying stone over here, that means that we are going to have a TC being dropped right now, and now we're at a position where the Tar player is going to start holding the hill, and that's where it starts getting scary for Cloud and Sora Kuma. So they get the TC over here in the middle, and we have Sora Kuma sending 2 Villagers to store over here, and it looks like we will have 2 more ranges coming in here for Sora Kuma. The problem is upgrades, not necessarily numbers, and especially the cavalry upgrades were awful. So, not sure what happened to Cloud's cavalry, but I mean, at 27 minutes, still only +1 defense when you're up against the Tar crossbows with full upgrades. That's very disastrous, so to say. Loom just now coming in for Cloud, better late than never. And I mean, +2 defense is now in, but he's still at 7 knights. Not really an amazing number, if you ask me. So, this definitely does not help the case of the Taiwanese team. And with that, we're gonna have a third TC coming in here for Barles. At the back of his base, 3 TCs now up for Valas. Both of these players from our cold color team have a foothold in the middle. Neither of them are mining stone, so castle drop is not imminent. But that's quite a lot of Cavalier. But this is not between Cavalier or not Cavalier. If you take a look at these, they have a bit more attack. It's about these Knights not having the defense upgrades against that many Tatar crossbows with full upgrades. That's the problem. So, with that, now this TC is exposed, and one thing that these Cavaliers give you is the chance to do a lot more damage to buildings, because that extra 2H attack comes in clutch. And now the Knights will take this fight, but I mean, these are Tatar crossbows with full upgrades firing down hills. That's a massacre. That's a massacre. And indeed, Cloud taps out, and Valas' team take over. On a land map like Arabia, they seem a lot more dominant than our Taiwanese team. And now Valas' team takes over game number 3 over here. It wasn't, as I said, on the Cavalier. It was more like on the Tatar crossbows. Big amount of crossbows on a hill, +2 defense, Botkin arrow, ballistic, stumbling. That is not something that you can defeat with just +1 defense Knights. Also, the crossbow numbers for Sora Kuma weren't amazing, I have to say, so you see that these ranges are sort of idle. Overall, farming eco was idle. It was a messy game from both Taiwanese players here, I believe. Wasn't perfect from them, whereas Valas and Barles has played a very, very clean game over here. And with that, we got Team Acropolis and Rock Slide remaining, but we're actually gonna go to Rock Slide because it is always the home map of the previous game's loser. So with Sora Kuma and Cloud losing the previous game, we'll go to Rock Slide, and the decider game could be played on Team Acropolis. If we get there, Team Acropolis should be Lithuanians and Aztecs now, so I expect Chinese and Goths being picked here for Barles and Valas. Whereas for Sora Kuma and Cloud, I think it's gonna be a Celts and maybe Byzantines type of scenario over here. So we will jump into game number 4, and we have a surprising set of civs. Because we're going to Rock Slide, but Lithuanians and Aztecs will be the civilizations for Barles and Valas. So they went completely opposite of what I actually thought. I'm not sure what you gain with Lithuanians or Aztecs on this map. There is relics on the water, sure, but is that good for you? Sora Kuma will be playing Byzantines in yellow on the left side, and we're also gonna have Demon Sheep in red, playing as Celts. Right side will be Barles playing as Blue Aztecs, and on the south we'll have Valas as Lithuanians in green. They're not bad saves, I just feel like both of these are actually better for Team Acropolis by any means. So, the way that Rockslide looks like is that you have a big forest in the middle, and all the gold is on the outside. So you're gonna have to move out for that, which means that early aggression could be a thing, especially with galleys potentially coming out from either side. One thing that is special about this map is that you start with a mill, which means that you only need to build one feudal or one Dark Age building to go up to the next stage, and you also don't have to spend on a mill. That actually means that you can afford to go for a little less villagers on wood, so you don't necessarily have to go for 4 on wood if you want to go for a build that would be 4 on wood on Arabia, for example. So, with that, we are gonna have Celts over here. Celts could definitely be a civilization to look out for through the middle as well, because Celts can chop through wood very, very easily. And one thing that you will actually see is once we get deeper into the game, towers might appear in the middle trying to deny the wood income for the opponent. So, on the other side, all the stone on this map is on the outside, sheltered by a layer of trees. What this means is that early tower rushes aren't really possible, so Byzantines won't really be able to play tower rush over here. Now, you could think that Demon Ship could actually try to go for a sort of a fast castle-ish play. The score is not correct, and the reason why is because, as I said, the Taiwanese team has a backup player, Demon Sheep, and whenever they change players, capture age actually gets messed up. But you're right, Valas' team is leading 2-1 right now. So far, the only game where Demon Sheep played, they won it, that was the Islands game. So it looks like Sora Kuma is the standard player, and Cloud and Demon Sheep are the ones that change each other in between games. It looks like this is a map that Demon Sheep likes better, and look at this. It looks like Valas finds a bit of a shorefishing opportunity for himself. There is not really a lot of shorefish in this pond, but there is some, and especially now that you don't have to build a mill, you can definitely afford to make a dock and go for the shorefish over here. That's a nice little steady food income at the beginning, and then you can just go for galleys in early feudal age. So, with that, we are gonna go and have a little bit of a scout scuffle over here. The Dark Age Eagle is actually stronger than Dark Age Scout, but it seems like the micro is very nice from the Taiwanese team, and they will actually be able to potentially finish off that scout from Valas. Valas has 3 HP left on it. On the other side, the yellow scout will be chased down by the Eagle, and the Eagle is currently stronger than that scout, so we might see both teams losing one scout in the process. I love these aesthetics on this map, by the way. Little barrels over there with 2 swords in the middle of nowhere. Early voice coming in here for Sora Kuma, going for even a fishing ship. Fishing ship, ladies and gentlemen, on this map. I am not sure if it's actually worth it, though. Like, I'm legit not sure. And this is an interesting fact. This is a very, very interesting fact from Krazini. That I want to share about this map, because it's a very, very nice trivia. It looks like these barrels always spawn right next to shorefish, which actually makes it easier to spot shorefish and plan. So you see that there is barrels over here close to the shorefish, there is barrels over here, so that is a very, very nice aesthetics, but it also helps players spot shorefish, because it's not easy to spot them by any means. So you see that from this distance it's actually pretty hard to spot that there is 2 droplets of shorefish over there. With that, that looks like an Aztec Man-at-Arms play, potentially. If it's a Man-at-Arms play, this is a 20 pop-up for our blue player. So 20 pop Man-at-Arms play. The idea here could be that if you land a tower here, it's gonna be extremely hard for your opponent to just come out of his base. So you could try to trap your opponent inside, and that would be an interesting idea. For sure, we're gonna have a gold mine established over here for Sora Kuma, going for feudal age. It looks like Demon Sheep actually wants to go for a fast castle, so this is legitimately Celts ETC type of attitude over here from our red player. In that case, I don't really like that he's going for this gold mine, and okay, he's sneaking villagers out to a different gold mine. That's way better. It's a little bit ambitious moving out without loom, but you can actually hide your villager out here. Because your opponent will probably not be scouting that area. There's the tower, towering the berries over here, with 3 Men-at-Arms coming in for our Aztec player. That means that the berries will be gone, and I'm not sure if Demon Sheep is gonna be able to afford the Castle Age without those berries. So, on the other side, we will have a couple of Lithuanian Spearmen moving out over here, and Fire Galley first, so no standard galley. We'll see a Fire Galley coming in here from Valas. He's pretty much trying to dog block this one as much as possible. It's not completely possible to dog block this, but you can limit the opponent's movement if he's actually making ships with 2 docks over here, potentially having demo garrisoned inside. And oh my goodness, Barles is actually bringing in the walls, guys. It's a trap. It's a trap. Tupos 1 actually had a map that was called Glade, which was somewhat similar in many aspects. It was a bit more like Black Foresty, instead of open on the outside. But the concept was that you had a very, very narrow exit out of your base and you were surrounded by trees otherwise. And because the exit is very, very narrow, you can just void your opponent inside his base. So if you do that, your opponent won't be able to leave, and there is 4 villagers on gold for Demon Sheep, but that's gonna stay 4 villagers for quite a while, because he's not gonna be able to leave his base. So, players didn't really like Glade, and removed that from the map pool. And now we do have this map, Rock Slide, and it appears that Bar's actually gonna go for the wall-in strategy over here as well. Demon Ship getting a market up, will be market blacksmith up as well, and then he's gonna go for a siege workshop to take this wall down. It's nice, but I don't think this is gonna work well for our blue player. Now, why do you make Spearmen here? It's actually pretty simple. Spearmen get bonus damage against ships. So, the Lithuanian Spearmen moving faster is actually able to swing the Fire Galley fight in your favor. Because, oh, here's a demo, nice connection. Still, Spearmen poking down those Fire Galleys, and now we get the answer why you pick Spearmen over here. Or why you pick Lithuanians, so to say. Because Byzantines will actually have the better Fire Galleys, they have the higher damage output, but Lithuanians have the faster moving Spearmen, which helps quite a bit when it comes to sinking Fire Galleys of your opponent. Still, there was some nice demo hits from Sora Kuma, and it makes the life a lot harder for Valas on the water right now. Here's a galley though, and that galley forces away the villagers from the gold mine. That's why you're fighting for water. With that, you will have one repair villager coming in here for Sora Kuma repairing his ships, and he's going to escort his villagers to the corner for another gold mine. We don't have full walls over here for Barles. He's just going to prevent exit from the opponent's base to the tower over here, and he also has a dock here, potentially to make a couple of galleys if he's getting pushed. And I like this touch. He knows that, hey, palisade walls won't hold for long, so I'm gonna make stone walls and pretty much just try to deny my opponent from leaving his base, because that's gonna limit the amount of gold miners that they can have. And now the galleys are actually doing more and more work over here, forcing a lot of idle time on Sora Kuma's eco. And with that being said, the Fire Galleys still winning the fight over here for Sora Kuma, but he doesn't really have any response to the galleys right now that are harassing the villagers, and the Spearmen are a fairly cost-efficient way of dealing decent damage to the opponent's Fire Galleys. You could even add a demo if you wanted to, if you're Barles, and indeed here come the demos. But I really like that he actually forced idle time on those gold miners over there, forced idle time on the berry villagers, and now there's going to be some archers coming in. I wonder if Valas knows about that gold mine on the south, and the answer is no. He will probably try to look for it, but he did lose his scout previously, so that's not going to be easy for him. Castle Age is in for Demon Sheep, and now we're gonna have a siege workshop coming in. Stone walls for Barles to make sure that his opponent is still trapped within his own base. Market coming in as well for Sora Kuma. He's trying to buy himself up to Castle Age here. Castle Age on the way for Barles as the first player from our cold color team. We're gonna have Castle Age as a distant dream for Valas only, but he has the ship numbers, and one thing that you have to consider, as a demo ship just rams that house that was awfully inefficient, is that you can break these walls down with the fire ships, and guess what, if you have archers here, you could try running in with the archers. So Sora Kuma has to be careful about that. There's a TC coming up for Demon Sheep, which helps quite a bit because he wants to add villagers to gold, and the only way he does that is if he makes villagers on that TC. Not ideal, but now there's a Mangonel out, and the Mangonel tries to take down tower. Eagle was actually healed up a little bit compared to its previous self, and a nice ground attack from Demon Sheep, finishing off the Eagle Warrior. And that means the tower goes down, and because these walls aren't finished, Demon Sheep will be able to leave his base without any problems. Fire Galleys now come for a counterattack, and they will be able to take a fairly decent engagement over here. Demo has a nice connection, and that swings the battle back in the favor of Valas. Now, however, archers moving out to the south, and apparently Valas just completely missed out on them. Now realizes, and this is a bad decision for Sora Kuma, he's showing his opponent where his gold mine is. That's a very, very bad decision, and you can see he's trying to hide his villagers, and now rushing up a defensive tower, but I think he already showed his opponent where that gold mine is, and that's what matters over there. So with that, there is double docks coming in for Demon Sheep, and do you know what this is gonna be? This is gonna be the play that I actually was urging players to do in Red Bull. So when players in Red Bull actually won the water, they didn't go for a siege push, but the idea is, as we have a couple of eagles here from Barles to pick off the Mangonels, so the idea is that you go for a couple of ships, you limit the opponent's exit from his base, and then you go for a Mangonel push on this base, because if you can take this down, you kill 30 villagers because they have nowhere to go. So I feel like that's the potentially the best build for this map. Best case scenario, so to say, Men-at-Arms will eat the Eagle. The problem is that those Mangonels are unable to reach the front line. You need a couple of War Galleys over here if you're Demon Sheep to be able to do this, or Fire Ships could also work out in this one, but Barles is doing an excellent job just limiting the movement of his opponent over here. Even saves the demo for later days. We got the archers being burnt by the fire ships over here. Nice quick walls from Sora Kuma. This is gonna be a defendable gold mine, and they seem to stabilize for now. So, at this point, it looks like Demon Sheep is just waiting for a couple of demos to sing the Eagles, but now it will turn into an Eagle, Siege, and Monks push, with Aztecs and Monks are actually pretty scary, especially against Celts. So, once you get Redemption and Sanctity, suddenly that Celt Siege is gonna be a lot worse. With that, we're gonna have the archers now camping down the gold mine. This is why this is so hard. You always have to pay attention to these. This is why Sora Kuma tried to wall this one in, because he wanted to make sure that these archers can sneak up on him when he's not paying attention. There's gonna be a knight coming in, so this should still be a cleanup. But Castle is on the way for Valas as well, and that means that Valas is actually gonna go for his own knights as well. Eagle is now intercepting villagers that are trying to move out, and really, it is just so hard for Demon Sheep to leave his base right now. And soon there will be Eagle Warriors, and potentially Monks as well. Monk and Siege could actually start annihilating the base of Demon Sheep. Demo coming in here right now. You bring the ram close to the water and try to sing the Eagles, but that's not gonna happen either. Valas is up, and Valas is going to start making double stable knights and start spamming those knights into this gold mine over here. So with that, we're gonna have fire galleys from Valas sinking the ones from Sora Kuma. But more importantly, I feel like this is the push that matters the most. These Monks and Eagles, they might be looking for this TC over here. I think Barles doesn't know about the sneaky villagers. I'm fairly certain he doesn't know about it. Okay, he does. In that case, he will probably try to push this one with Rams and Monks. Eagles will be sent to the other side of the map as well. And now it's 4 knights from Valas. This means that Sora Kuma is in big trouble, because I don't see him being able to stop these knights over here. He can make a couple of monks or camels, but it's gonna take some time, and he's going to lose his gold miners over here. They are currently alright in terms of villager count, but that will soon change. -5 villagers will be the situation for Sora Kuma. 30C coming in here for Demon Sheep on the wood line, as he's moving out with a huge amount of villagers. Galleys now out for Demon Sheep, so he's still believing in his ability to win water and then potentially secure this position for himself and then start pushing towards the opponent. That TC is probably going up, but it's going to cost quite a lot of villagers for Demon Sheep. If those were Eagle Warriors, this would be even more devastating. But they do have Forging and +2 defense, although +2 defense doesn't really matter here. As I said, this goes up. Is this going up? You can deny it with the Monks. It goes up. That was a proper doubt, TC. We are left with 3 villagers over here. So, with that, knights are still around for Valas. And remember that all the relics are here on this outer rim, which means that it's fairly predictable where to look for them. And I wouldn't be surprised to see Valas slowly picking those up for himself. Now it's gonna be a demo, and demos will actually get a couple of Eagles here. Well, that was a little bit underwhelming, I have to say. It was heavily underwhelming, to be honest. Monks now coming in to try and get a conversion on the fire galleys. Eagle Warrior is now in for our Aztec player. 109 villagers against 95. The villager count is still not super bad. By the way, the Aztec team bonus is gonna mean that it's one thing that the Lithuanians get a nice extra attack on their knights from the relics. It also will mean that they also generate gold a lot faster, because the Aztec bonus is actually a team bonus. We got an interesting location for a monastery for Valas, so to say. Not necessarily the safest spot on the earth, but he's already picking up relic number 1 for his knights. There will be camels out for Sora Kuma, which helps quite immensely at cleaning up those knights over there. It looks like the knights might be heading towards Demon Sheep's base now, as the Eagles are now out. The Eagles will actually be fairly decent against those camels. So, with that, I feel like if you bring in the Eagles here, you can actually lower the amount of camels to a point where Valas can actually take this fight, or you can just raid the opponent's eco to death with your Eagles. Now those are Eagle Warriors with +1/+2, and the Knights are also coming in. Siege is on the way, and if there's a couple of monks as well from Barles, he's gonna be able to convert these camels. And now they're absolutely smashing Demon Sheep over here. He's down to 43 villagers, and on the other side, we have 55 for Sora Kuma. He's taking an okay engagement over here, but those camels have +1/+1, no bloodlines. So it's not really an amazing engagement, and I feel like this is the end of the story for Taiwan here. They're down to 15 military. This TC is gonna get pushed, and if you lose these two TCs, then how are you going to get any kind of gold income? This is the tricky thing with Rock Slide in this one, as we're gonna have this TC going down, and also all the other villagers over here. This TC is next as well. In this case, Rams make actually more sense, because the villagers can jump out of the TC to kill those. So this TC is pretty much dead, but it wasn't really finished off, which is, well, somewhat unfortunate. Still, two Eagles can finish it off without problems, and you see that Demon Sheep is losing villagers left and right over here. He's trying to secure water for himself, so at least his base is secure. But at this point, you're just going to focus on cleaning up the right side of these players, and there will be knights coming in as well for Valas to raid the eco of Sora Kuma. Sora Kuma is on 7 camels, but doesn't really have a good response to Aztec Eagles. That's a nice idea to get a TC up over there. Because you have the fire ships here helping out to potentially secure that, but that still is going to be extremely hard to defend. Fletching just now coming in for Demon Sheep, so he wants to go for galleys. If he had some demos here, that would be crazy, but it doesn't seem like he has any. In fact, he's got 3 galleys and 2 fire galleys, and galleys don't really kill Eagles either. And it looks like Demon Sheep is also potentially losing the resources in that TC, because he didn't seem like he actually deleted it in time. So, last time I checked, galleys aren't amazing against Eagle Warriors, because it's still range damage. They have a 7 attack against 5 pierce armor, so they do 2 damage per shot. What you need here for Taiwan is like at least one amazing demo. Sora Kuma is going for Imperial though, so that's something to pay attention for still. There's a couple of monks, but I think all of these monks must be out of faith, because otherwise they would be converting these knights. But instead, they are just running away from this one. Demo is now out, and Demon Ship is going to patrol the water with demos, but here's the deal. He's trapped within his own base. He's got nowhere to go, tries to demo the knights, and that was a fairly good demo hit over there. Eagles now will start rampaging the eco of Sora Kuma as well, and regardless of the fact that he's gonna be an Imperial, he has no good response to the Eagles. He could have any response if he had Cataphracts, but that's gonna take forever for him to get to Cataphracts. I don't think that he's ever gonna get there, especially considering he doesn't have access to stone. So that's the biggest problem over there. So, with that, Eagles once again just absolutely tearing apart Demon Sheep's eco, and Barles has been playing very, very good in this game. So, he's just pumping out Eagles like a madman, just killing villager after villager. Now they're inside, and that's only a palisade gate, so this is the moment where you just attack that palisade gate with your Eagles and just start running inside. It is gonna be now Eagles inside Demon Sheep's base. He's got nothing on the outside, and soon we'll have nothing on the inside. So, unless Sora Kuma is able to make magic happen over here, it seems like this game is just over. It's gonna be a cleanup over here by Barles. Demon Sheep is down to 26 villagers, and that's probably going to decrease even further. Imperial Agent, congratulations for Sora Kuma, but I mean, their opponents, Barles is also going into Imperial soon. Valas not so much, but he doesn't even have to. So, he could just stack into pikemen now. Lithuanian pikemen will be perfectly fine against these camels. He doesn't really need anything else, because Cataphract, as I said, isn't really an option right now for Sora Kuma. He doesn't have stone. If he had stone, Cataphract could be a solution to the ego problem, but it's not really going to be. Byzantine Cavalier, ladies and gentlemen, as Demon Sheep is down to 20 villagers, 15 of them idle inside this town center. Imperial Age on the way now for Barles as well. Brings in Arson for his Eagles. Those Cavalier will actually be able to kill the Eagles pretty easily, but still, those Cavaliers will be without Bloodlines because that's inaccessible for Sora Kuma as Byzantines, and they also will be without Blast Furnace, so those Cavalier are pretty underwhelming, so to say, and with Squires being teched into, you can already see the Pikeman switch being imminent for Valas. Valas already collected 3 relics, as Valas has got 10 plus 5 knights for raiding. That's a territory where they actually start being good against camos. So when you get 3 relics, suddenly they become reasonable. It's interesting that Barles is just letting his rams being killed here, now gets a couple of Eagles out on the field to kill these wheels. At this point it's full desperation from Demon Sheep, like he's trying to destroy those rams with a couple of villagers, and it looks like Barles himself will also tech into Pikemen. Knights arriving on the other side, now it's Cavalier from Sora Kuma. But, I mean, those Knights with 10 plus 5 might actually be better than this Cavalier right now for Sora Kuma. It's also a heal advantage over there for Valas, so I think he's cleaning this one up. Thanks to numbers, thanks to relics, and thanks to the hill. And it is right now 64 military against 5, 114 villagers against 224, a 505 military value against 7,000. And Valas' team, after the Scary Islands game, they seem to have a firm control over the land games. And they came in here with a plan. And that plan was good. They disrupted Demon Sheep's leave from their base, making sure that he's just unable to go for gold, and then continue with Monk, Siege, and Ego Push. Very, very nice done by Barles. He was playing 2 TCs the whole time, but it doesn't really show on his eco, and this is an excellent use of Aztecs. We did mention that Aztecs is actually a relatively weak save as an archer save in 2v2, because it is extremely hard to use it as an archer save when you don't have Thumb Ring. But this is a very, very good use of that. This map is suitable for such a Monk and Ego based push, and I feel like despite the fact that Aztecs was actually their pool 2 civ, they were capable of using that to their maximum efficiency, and with that, Barles and Valas will go to the next round to the deciders.